You're watching the Community MMA.
It was announced that the UFC is releasing Francis Ngannou. Let me repeat that. The UFC is releasing Francis Ngannou, the current heavyweight champion. This is going to send shockwaves through the MMA community. And they also announced that we got Ciryl Gane versus Jon Jones for the heavyweight title, the vacant heavyweight title at UFC 285. So this is absolutely crazy news. And it kind of confirms what I've been thinking. And that's it. Francis Ngannou was holding up the heavyweight division. I told you in the last podcast that this division makes me sick because it's just sitting there idle. And it seems that Ngannou, with, demanding a higher contract and all these things, and, should he get it, I'm sure, but probably not to the level that he wanted it, has decided to ride off into the sunset. And you can see there now, it is vacant. Ciryl Gane, number one, he'll take on Jon Jones. You also got Miocic there. Pavlovich will be getting in a title fight eventually. Curtis Blade's still hanging in there. Tai Tuivasa. But the reality is there's going to be a new champion, and it could very well be Jon Jones. We're getting into that prediction in a moment. But Dana White said, I've told you guys this before, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be, Dana White said. I think Francis is in a place right now where he doesn't want to take a lot of risk. I agree. He feels like he's in a good position where he could fight lesser opponents and make more money. And that's crazy. We're going to let him do that, release him from his contract, and give up our right to the match. So that's Dana White weighing in. And, it's just crazy to me that Francis Ngannou is just walking away from the UFC. Maybe he goes into boxing, who knows? He's got a lot of options, but the fact is he could have fought 2-3 times a year, kept winning, getting the pay-per-view points and all that, but he decides to ride off into the sunset. So that's the way it goes. Before we get any further, we want to get this prediction to you right away. Of course, you'll see it again when UFC 285 fight week comes up, but it's going to be coming quick because I think it's in early March. Because in early March, you got 285, and then mid-March, you got 286. It's going to be back-to-back. It's going to be fireworks that month. But let's get into Ciryl Gane versus Jon Jones. Detailed prediction. Stay tuned. In the heavyweight division for the heavyweight division vacant belt. Can't believe this one. Ciryl Gane will take on Jon Jones at UFC 285. Francis Ngannou has been released, and that leads us to the vacant belt situation. So now we got two divisions with a vacant belt, and let's get into this one. Both guys stand at 6 feet 4 inches. Of course, this will be a heavyweight division fight. Who knows what Jon Jones will come in at weight-wise, but Jones has an 84-inch reach, Ciryl Gane 81-inch reach, and both these guys have a big reach. I mean, 84 and 81, two guys above 80. It's crazy. Both guys will fight right-handed. Ciryl Gane lands about 5.1 significant strikes per minute. Jon Jones, 4.3. Jon Jones will land like 2 takedowns every 3 rounds normally, but now he's in a heavyweight, so we'll see. Ciryl Gane isn't really trying to get takedowns. He's going to try to stand up and break you down. Ciryl Gane, 55% takedown defense. Jon Jones, 95% takedown defense. And think about all the fights he's had. One of the best takedown defense percentages in the UFC that you'll ever see. 95% after as many fights as he had. It's crazy. Now, we haven't seen Jon Jones in a while, so hold off on him. Ciryl Gane won his last fight against Tai Tuivasa, 3rd round knockout. Lost to Ngannou by decision for the heavyweight title. Now, it's interesting in that fight because Gane led by 20 significant strikes. Very slow-paced fight, 63-43, but gave up 4 takedowns via Francis Ngannou, who had the knee problem in that fight. So he went with the takedown game, and it worked, thankfully for him. Now, prior to that, he KO'd Derek Lewis, beat Volkov, Rosenstrike, and did what he had to do, putting him in this position. He's only lost 1 fight. He's 11-1, and that was to Francis Ngannou. Now, Jon Jones, virtually undefeated, right? He had a 1 fight he lost. It was a disqualification. Other than that, he hasn't lost. In his last 4 fights, he beat Dominic Reyes by decision, Thiago Santos split decision, Anthony Smith, Alexander Gustafsson, who he KO'd out. He KO'd, I'm sorry, in terms of Gustafsson. So, but he had a lot of decisions in the light heavyweight division. Now we haven't seen him, right, since February 8th, 2020. And you think about that, it'll be over 3 years since he's been in the octagon. So who knows what Jon Jones we're getting. He's going to be beefed up. He's going to look totally different. Will he be slower? I'm sure. But the stylistic matchup in this type of fight is probably better than the Ngannou fight, because both of these guys have similar styles. I mean, they're going to try to get in there and strike. It's going to be a lot of boxing, some kicking going on, things like that. You probably won't see a lot of takedowns. A lot of fundamental work on the feet is going to be at display, and they match up very well. Very, very well. And, you know, I'm going to be watching this fight rooting for Jon Jones. I think Jon Jones can win this fight. It's hard to say after 3 years of not seeing him, but it also means that his body is refreshed, right? He's been working out, putting on all types of muscle, getting used to that body weight. And, you know, it's going to be tough to come in and just fight the #1 contender in the world in Ciryl Gane, who's a worthy opponent and very easily could be heavyweight champion in his own right. But with the break, with all the work that Jon Jones has been putting in, I'm saying he's going to come in and get the win here. I mean, he's one of the best fighters in UFC and MMA history, right? So I expect him not to let us down and get the win here, likely by decision, though. It's going to be one of those fights, and it'll come down to the 5th round. That's how close it'll be. But he'll move to 27-1 here in the heavyweight division and will win the heavyweight title. Think about that. 2-belt champ, you know, over the course of his career, which would be huge. So this fight goes down at UFC 285. So finally, we get Jon Jones, right? We finally get Jon Jones for the heavyweight title. He doesn't have to wait. He doesn't have to fight, you know, a fight like against Stipe or anything like that. He gets fast track right to the title. And maybe it wasn't Jon Jones all this time not wanting to fight. Maybe it was Francis Ngannou. But nonetheless, we finally get what we want, and that's Jon Jones fighting for the heavyweight title. And his patience was a virtue here, for sure. Absolutely patient in this, and it's probably a good thing because he got plenty of time to get ready for a heavyweight fight.